Hey everyone, Tin Man here, and today is the Outlanders update for Dota Underlords, and I suppose regular Dota too, but we're here to talk about the Underlords because the Outlanders, the Snapfire and Void Spirit, as well as all the other spirits have invaded Whitespire. You can read all about it in this awesome news article thing on the Outlanders website, but there's also new game modes, new units, and all kinds of sweet stuff. So let's talk about the new game mode, Knockout. So this is the fast-paced turbo mode that we've been talking about and kind of hinting at for a while. And so the major changes here is you're not going to have a life total, you're just going to have a number of hearts. And if you lose 4 hearts, meaning you lose 4 fights, you are out. So it's a 4 strikes and you're out kind of deal. And it doesn't matter if you win by 20 damage or you lose by the narrowest of margins. A win keeps your hearts, and a loss of any sort loses a heart. Of course, in a draw, it won't take anybody's hearts. The other big changes are not mentioned in this little graphic right here, but we'll talk about that once we look at the rest of the patch notes. But whenever you grab just 2 copies of a unit, that will upgrade it to a 2-star, and then 2 2-star units, so 4 total units will get you a 3-star unit. And so my patch review here has been a little bit delayed because I've just been playing so much Knockout ever since it came out. And, you know, I've had games where I win. Games typically last between like 8 to 12 rounds, depending on how quickly you get eliminated or if you win. And by the end of that, I've had 9 different 3-star units. I've had 10 units on the board, 9 of them were 3-star. And I was really close to getting the last one up to 3-star. So lots of 3-stars, lots of wacky things, lots of cool combinations, and just really powerful builds that you can play in, 10 to 15 minutes in a game. So it's really exciting, really fast-paced, and a real welcome change of pace from the kind of slow, long, drawn-out games of Underlords that we've been accustomed to. Next up, we've got new units. We've got 4 new units coming here. First off, we got Snapfire, who we can see some gameplay in here from. She is a 1-cost, a tier 1 unit. She is a dragon and an inventor. So she's riding on a dragon, and she herself is, of course, an inventor. She's got an ability called Old Scatterblast that says after every 4 auto attacks, she'll do a shotgun shot. So it doesn't require mana, it doesn't require a cooldown, it just is after 4 auto attacks. So if she's attacking really quickly, she'll cast it more often, or if she's slowed, she'll cast it less often. And just deals an AoE damage with shotgun, and also slows the attack speed of the nearby opponents. She also has because she's a dragon, she has an ability unlocked by the Dragon Alliance, and that's Mortimer Kisses. And so Mortimer, that's what we see in this animation here, is her up against some dragons. She does this like blobs of fire bursting out, and that deals an AoE around the target and kind of sets them on fire for a few seconds, depending on the level of Snapfire. I think she's a really impactful unit that's going to go very well into mage compositions with the dragons plus mages, with Puck or Dragon Knight already. And of course, inventors, if you want to run like scrappy inventors, she fits in perfectly there because they also want to deal magic damage and probably have a level of the mage bonus as well. So as a tier 1 unit, I think she's going to be a pretty high priority pickup in the early game and builds you into a bunch of different compositions based around magic damage. Next up, we've got the new Spirit Alliance. Now this one is really cool. It comes with 4 spirits, but you only need 3 spirits to activate the alliance. So whenever a spirit casts an ability, any of your 4 spirits, that spirit will become charged. And whenever you have 3 charged spirits at once, they do this Delta Slam technique where they become briefly untargetable and they move to the edges of the board. And they form a triangle, and everybody caught in that triangle is going to take chunks of magic damage. It'll be 3 quick hits, 1 from each of the 3 spirits. And every one of the spirits will apply their individual elemental effects, which we'll talk about when we see the new units. So first off, we're going to talk about Void Spirit. He is the ace unit. He's the 5-cost ace tier. He has a spirit and a warlock. And his ability is Dissimulate, so that whenever he casts his ability, you see these like void things pop out, and then he's going to exit one of them and reduce the armor and deal damage to nearby enemies. Here we can actually see the Delta Slam technique as we have 3 guys spread out. So that's his normal ability, and the Delta Slam, when you have 3 charged spirits, they do this side thing, catch everybody in the middle, and deal 3 chunks of damage. Whenever he is part of that, his ability will break the affected targets for a few seconds. The other spirits we've got much lower cost spirits. We've got Storm Spirit, is a tier 2 spirit mage. And so that means he comes online much earlier in the game, and he's got the ball lightning ability. So whenever he casts, he becomes an electric ball and dashes across the battlefield, kind of similar to what we see in Morphling, just like a transform and then dash effect. But the cool thing about Storm Spirit is that he gains damage the further he goes. So if he travels from one end of the board to the other, he's going to do a lot more damage than the people right next to him. And whenever he casts as part of that Delta Slam, he disarms the unit within that. So you're going to get 3 of these type of effects. So you can get the break, the disarm, and then the other 2 as well. So you can get 3 of the 4. And I think Storm Spirit is actually one of the strongest of the spirits right now, just because he's an early mage that can actually spam this ball lightning relatively quickly. It's on a pretty short cooldown. He has a low mana cost for it. So he's going to be casting this repeatedly very often in fights, and honestly can be a pretty big carry, kind of similar to old Morphling at the 2 cost spot, and kind of similar to Puck in the sense that it's a good AoE magic damage mage. So I like Storm Spirit a lot, and I think that makes spirits in general go towards a mage build. Next up, we've got Earth Spirit. He is a tanky boy. He is a spirit warrior, and his ability is Geomagnetic Grip. Earth Spirit will summon a stone remnant from off the map and pull it towards his current target. The enemy struck by the incoming stone remnant will be silenced and take some damage. It's pretty low damage output, but it's a good AoE silence effect. It's on a pretty long cooldown though, and so he's like kind of a frontline warrior, does his one like silence effect, but it's on a 20-second cooldown, I believe, at rank 1. Which means if you're using him to trigger a Delta Slam, he's going to be the limiting factor, whereas Storm Spirit and the other one we're going to talk about in a second, Ember Spirit, have a much lower cooldown. His Delta Slam ability, whenever he smacks them, will silence the affected unit. So you can get break, you can get disarm, you can get silence, you can just completely mess up everybody in what they're doing with that Delta Slam ability. And finally, we've got Ember Spirit, another tier 2 unit. So we've got Ember Spirit and Storm at tier 2, and then Earth Spirit at tier 3. So those are going to be your main core of spirits, and then you generally will replace one of them by the time you get Void Spirit in the very late game as an ace. And Ember Spirit's ability is Sleight of Fist. He will dash around with blazing speed, attacking all enemies within range, and return to his start location. Oh, he's an assassin as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. Ember Spirit, a spirit assassin. So he's going to jump into their back line, and then when he casts, he's going to do this like AoE attack to everybody, and those attacks deal bonus damage as well. So it's kind of like a Queen of Pain ult that it will deal, AoE damage to everybody around him, but it's physical damage because he's an assassin, and I think it actually has a chance to crit because if you have the assassin bonus, I think they're coded as just regular attacks. So very powerful effect indeed. And his Delta Slam ability, whenever he's part of that, will trigger will set the opponents on fire for a few seconds. So really good with Hobgun, set a bunch of people on fire, but also just to deal lots of damage because they're all going to burn because of the fire effect. So I think the spirits are really cool. I think they do kind of fit towards a mage composition right now, just because Storm Spirit and to an extent Earth Spirit, you can just combine spirits plus warriors or spirits, warriors, and mages as kind of like 3 warriors, 3 spirits, 3 mages. I think that's a really solid core with the Storm Spirit, and then if you do manage to get Void Spirit in the late game, he can augment that power. I didn't mention the ace tier effect of Void Spirit, but his ace effect is every one of your empowered spirits deals 100% bonus attack damage. So that time when they are empowered, but before they cast the Delta Slam, they're going to be dealing double attack damage. Or if one of your units gets killed off, then they can't do the Delta Slam anymore, but they're empowered, so they just hit for 100% bonus damage for the rest of the fight, which is pretty strong. So I'm really looking forward to playing with these guys. Okay, let's move on to the actual patch notes. This was on the Underlords kind of fancy graphics website, but there's actual real patch notes. And so we've already gone over a lot of this, the things with Snapfire, Void Spirit, and the Spirit Alliance, but they've also added a tutorial, the new player experience, and I've played through this a little bit. It's pretty bare bones, and obviously most players who are watching this video probably don't need a tutorial to play the game. But it's always nice to see a little bit more friendly to the onboarding process because we want to be having more people join the game and actually figure out how to play. Although I would argue, a much more complete tutorial, and my video will be linked down in the description below, and probably a card right up there in case you want a bit more of a complete tutorial than what they currently have. They've also updated a lot of the UI, specifically on mobile, and I've even heard some feedback from people they like the UI even on the PC version. It looks a lot smoother and a lot nicer, so always happy to see those kind of optimizations going through. Otherwise, they've added new cosmetics to the 2 and 3-star heroes for a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them have better cosmetics now. I know like Treant Protector has a really cool skin. What was the other one? Pudge has really sweet animations. The higher level he gets, and a bunch of other ones had improved animations as well. All right, we kind of talked through the knockout mode, and I'll do a full video tutorial on exactly how knockout works. But basically, you start at level 5, you get a set of starting heroes, and then you get lots of gold per turn, and it only takes 2 units to complete it, and 4 to get up to 3-star. And then 4 strikes and you're out. Basically, every other round, you're either going to be naturally leveling up, which you can't level up on your own. You'll just have to wait 2 turns to level up. And then on the other turns, you'll either get an item or your Underlord's ultimate. You won't get to choose any other Underlord's talents. You'll choose your initial Underlord and then their ultimate, but the other talents are chosen for you. No interest, so you spend your gold, and average of 10-minute games. So really quick, 10 to 15 minutes if you're winning the game, or even shorter if you get knocked out real quick. And also, the round pairs based on the amount of health players have left. So, everyone starts with 4 health, and then 3 of them, ideally, 4 people go to 3 health, 4 people stay at 4, and then it'll be like a bracket system. The people who won the first round will face other winners of the first round, the people who lost, the other losers. So somebody will get eliminated in 4 rounds, presumably, or I guess it's possible they wouldn't, because they'd be the only one left at 1 HP. They could win if they get paired up. So essentially, it won't be like, oh, I'm at 1 HP, I'm going to get paired against the strongest player on the board who's still at 4 life. That won't happen, at least not until you're the only 2 players left. So that's really good to kind of make it a little bit more even, a little bit more fair, and really increase the tension of the game. Like I said, I've been playing it pretty much nonstop in the past couple hours. Ton of fun. Okay, so we went through a lot of these hero changes with Earth Spirit, Ember Spirit. Pretty much all of these are the things that we've already said. There's some more numbers to it, the exact amount of damage, but let's not get bogged down in all of that. Legion Commander does have an elemental ability as well, since she can be part of every alliance. Whenever she's part of the Delta Slam, her chunk deals double damage, so she will deal 400 damage in the Delta Slam, whereas everybody else only deals 200 damage for their Delta Slam. So Legion Commander doesn't apply a debuff, she just hits extra hard in that. We talked about Snapfire and Storm Spirit and Void Spirit. So the other changes to a hero was Weaver. Weaver is a scrappy, elusive insect now. So added Scrappy to Weaver, just a little bit of a buff to the Scrappy alliance, a little bit easier to get that online. Now, basically in this patch, we've added 1 new Scrappy and 1 new Inventor. Snapfire is the Inventor, Weaver's the Scrappy. Hopefully that makes them a little bit less vulnerable to getting jailed, completely removed from the game. Sometimes you get, Clockwork jailed, and you're like, well, I can't play any Scrappies or any Inventors because there's just not enough of them left, at least not outside of the Ace tier. And I don't think Weaver solves the problem by any means. It doesn't really fit into most of the Scrappy builds, but if you need it, there's an extra one out there. So I always like to see just a little bit more added into that alliance, which was really struggling with the jail situation. Other than that, certain items, Aegis of the Immortal, Desperate Measures, and Embarrassment of Riches are not in knockout mode, which kind of makes sense because Embarrassment, you get a lot less items. You only get like 4 or 5 items really over the course of the game. Desperate Measures, obviously your health total doesn't exist, so that's gone. And Aegis of the Immortal will be way too overpowered, basically giving you plus 25 life in a real game. So that was definitely too strong, so they removed that. Other than that, there's been some slight changes to Legion Commander, and those of you who've been following my channel know that I've been in love with Legion Commander over the past couple of days. I don't know if this is really a straight nerf or kind of like a side grade. They fixed a bug where she wasn't getting credit for all alliances. So I guess it was a bug, but I thought it was kind of intended. Basically, she would not get her bonus scaling for the Champion Alliance herself, or Heartless, Mage, or Insect. And those alliances are interesting because they don't really affect your unit, they affect the enemies, right? Heartless reduces their armor, Mage reduces their magic resist, and Insect just makes insects. It doesn't really buff your guys, whereas every other alliance in the game does. And so Champion previously would not count those alliances, and they wouldn't give her the 10% bonus. So now they will, including Champion herself. So they decided to nerf it a little bit down to 8% instead of 10%. So in some small, like earlier game compositions where you have maybe 3 or 4 alliances active, this is actually a buff to Legion Commander. If you have, say, 4, let's say you had like Warrior, Savage, Heartless, right? And then Champion, or something like that. You had 3 plus Champion. You're actually getting plus 32% now, rather than plus 30 like you used to have. But then it starts to fall behind once you get more, or I guess it kind of it does fall behind once you get up to 5 alliances. Then you have 40 as opposed to what you used to would also have 40, I guess. So kind of break even in the early game, but a little bit of a nerf later stages of the game, which for as much success as I was having with her, I guess is a little bit fair. And she kind of needed a buff early on anyway. And then the Spirit Alliance just kind of goes into a bit more detail about what's happening there. So that's a lot. And I am super excited. There's a lot to digest here. Of course, new game mode, a bunch of new heroes and alliances, and just all kinds of fun stuff happening. Definitely look forward to making turbo mode videos as well as my typical longer game videos. I don't even know, traditional mode or whatever it might be called, standard mode. As well as just figuring out how these spirits and Snapfire all fit into the meta. So I'm going to be really excited. I hope you guys are excited too. Make sure you go in, play a bunch of knockout mode. It's a ton of fun. It's a blast in just 10 minutes of gameplay. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time.